Hey, what's good, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 198. This man looks like Phil Escott. But it can't be, because he's in Great Britain and I'm here. But let's find out. Let's just hang in there. The episode starts right now. That you talked to Stephen Thomas about. I bring your attention to your one of your most recent podcasts. I think it was 3 episodes ago. Quite an interesting individual, right? I'd like to give you the floor because I've been rambling on for quite some time, and I'd like you to talk to us about like the lifestyle he led as an athlete, and the diet that was prototypically acceptable, right? Like, oh, he's eating 5 times a day. He's carb loading at night. He's doing all those things. What was the transition? It's a weird question, and it's a loaded question, and I'll definitely give you the floor and allow you to parse through it. But some people say a lot of the things that happen to him come with age, and some people call it genetics, some people call it bad luck. I'm going to give you the floor, but because I want you to take us through the journey of what he was doing as this elite athlete and what changed and how he needed to come back from that. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know that too much of the real ins and outs of exactly what he was doing. But I mean, he was following pretty much the playbook, wasn't he?
Hmm.
This is what you do. You need to carb up. You need to do that kind of thing. And this is what, the only source of energy that is viable for the human body in sport. And all the major sporting athletes, they all eat carbs. I get it all the time. And this vegan athlete and that one, when they go vegan for 5 minutes and shout about it, and then they don't shout when their performance tanks and that kind of thing, and they leave veganism, and they never attained that on veganism anyway. But I mean, side note into veganism. But Stephen's story, I think it's pretty similar to many people who have then had some kind of health issue that they've that has woken them up, and it's become more important than their athletic ability. And so then they've got to relearn everything. I mean, I was never an athlete in the real sense of things. I had a gym and I used to train and got pretty big and whatever, but I still had a load of niggling issues and joint issues that were starting. And I didn't realize, because oh yeah, this is something I've done in the gym, something like that, and I think Stephen's wake up call is pretty much the same as all of us who have been into some kind of performance, some kind of sport or whatever. That when it gets too much for you, and these little niggles, these little symptoms and whatever, they build up and they back up, and eventually the lucky ones of us get sick enough. That's why I call my book "Arthritis is the Best Thing that ever happened to me," because I'd never have woken up to this stuff if I hadn't got that sick. I'd have just accepted, as you said, these sort of things that come with age and blah blah blah. But when it's a difficult thing, really, I think, for number one, for any athlete to accept the fact that they can run on fats. And it's also more difficult because somebody who's reasonably sedentary, they can adapt to fat burning much quicker than an athlete, because the body does demand that glucose when it's been addicted to it. And so when you go onto a ketogenic or carnivore diet, you will get a dip in performance. And then people say, oh, I couldn't get the performance, blah, blah. But if you're willing to go through that time, that sort of dip, there are a lot of people out there now who are going keto or carnivore. In fact, some coaches, I understand, are keeping it kind of secret because it's such an edge when somebody does get properly adapted. And I think as some of the All Blacks have gone kind of carnivore or keto anyway,
Hmm.
heard about that. And you look at people say, oh well, it's only for explosive things or you'll run out of energy. Well, what about Zach Bitter, who broke the 100-mile ultra marathon thing, and he hardly has any carbs at all. He's full on carnivore when he's not training. I think he has a little tiny bit, when he goes and does 100 miles, but usually he'll just take some water, and everybody else is stopping for these gels and whatever. But yeah, it's a huge thing to discover, and totally against everything we've been taught. But that is how humans performed and ran after animals for miles and miles. And that's what they did in our ancestry. So, it's not so mad as it seems, eh?
No, it isn't. And I would also suggest that there are other things like I like to keep it on nutrition, but I saw this weird thing on 60 Minutes how there are people in other countries that are like running 50 miles without shoes. It's about not landing on your heels. It's about the arch to heel connection, how you land or whatever. And basically, like a lot of the sneakers I sell today, because they don't trust us as human beings to run right, they give us sneakers that have heels on our cushion, but because of the way the sneaker's designed, it's designed to bang on your heels more, right? As opposed to balls of your feet, heel push off, balls of your feet again, right? And they were doing a study on like African runners, like elite athletes, some of those people that are winning like you notice you see like Ethiopia and you look at the Olympics, right? And you'll see like Ethiopia first, second, and third place just leading the pack, right? And you got some your Eastern European and an American making sure the rest of the pack isn't being followed, right? That they're at the end. And they did this study on people that lived in between Lima and Machu Picchu, Peru. Same thing, a lot of Aztec Indian guys. Guy was like, all right, sorry about that. Guy was like 70 years old and running like 50 miles,
Yeah.
and no sneakers. And this Harvard guy that did the study actually has a group that he runs with every morning, with something called Tough Socks. They have like heel abrasive things, but allow you just to run. So, and I didn't mean to go too much into the physio away from the nutrition, but I understand you run a gym, and I understand that you're very learned on that as well. I think you guys like us, if we hang around Bart Kay enough, you're gonna learn a thing about exercise physiology as well. Correct?
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
Bart's bang on about that stuff, isn't he? I mean, I haven't
mm,
run a gym since 1999,
right.
but yeah. But now, I mean, I feel very weird even in any shoes with any heels at all.
Hmm.
I don't like them. I've got plenty of pairs of shoes now that are pretty much those barefoot shoes. And also, as much as I can, I go barefoot.
Yeah.
And I barefoot when I play the drums usually, unless it's really freezing or really disgustingly dirty venue or something like that. In which case, I have some kind of barefoot shoes that I'll wear to play the drums. But yeah, we one of the big things, one of the big wrong turns in human history, I think, along with farming, putting sunscreen on, that kind of thing, was wearing shoes. Because not only does it do something to you structurally, but you're also not grounded anymore. These rubber-soled shoes, and
Mm. Yeah, it's
we
kind of
need to be
weird.
in touch with the earth.
And they're I think people are catching up on that, and they're making shoes that are a little bit better. I'm not saying that it's a cold turkey cure, but I'm glad that they're giving its interpretive notice. And I guess for a price, you can get the right kind of shoes, to help alleviate or maybe even reverse that process. Me as an indoor coach, when I coach indoor, I have sneakers untied, and I'm coaching, so I'm not doing a lot of heavy activity. And I know on the beach. The beach is obvious. I just don't wear sneakers, right? I'll wear tough socks for some of the solar, that reflects off the sand. Some of those hot days where you're kind of ouching through the sand. We have something called tough socks, which are good for cold weather sand and hot weather sand. It's excellent. Tough
Oh,
socks, guys. TUFFSOX. So beach volleyball players, order a pair is $20. It's only good for like 4 or 5 tournaments, but think about all of the bull sugar that you spend your money on. You could do worse for $20. All right. That's good for 4 tournaments. Buy another pair, 3 pairs. You're good for the whole season for you run of the mill beach players. Um, the other reason why I brought up Stephen Thomas, you guys were talking about coronary artery counts. And first of all, how do you how does a coronary artery count get up to 639? You know, because I remember you said someone was up to 639, and I remember what's his name went to 266 to 16. Oh, that was you, 266 to 16, right?
I've never had one. I mean, I only just had a scan one time, and they said, "Oh, you've got some calcification
Right.
in your arteries," and that was years ago, and it's all gone now. So
Can you can you
yeah.
explain to my California kids and my lazy guys from Brooklyn what that is and how it happens?
Right. Well, the traditional, well, not traditional, but the modern ridiculous view on it is that you eat a load of saturated fat and then you get a cholesterol buildup in the arteries. This is obviously nonsense. We've done that. We've eaten saturated fat, animal fats, and whatever since the dawn of time, and we didn't have any of those problems. So it's clearly not that. What happens is when you eat too many inflammatory foods, whether it's particularly seed oils, I mean, they're horrific. They're the worst things humans have ever consumed. I mean, they were invented as machine lubricant and soap making additives, and somebody persuaded us that they were heart healthy,
Right.
which was so exactly around the time that all the major amounts of heart disease came in. Now, heart attacks were pretty much unknown a couple of 100 years ago. People just didn't have them, and now it's kind of the leading cause of death, pretty much. So what happens is when you take in inflammatory foods, which are most of the ones that we're told are really healthy, like, seed oils, whole grains, all that kind of thing, and all the processed junk that we eat, this creates inflammation on the wall of the arteries.
Right.
And the plaque buildups, these sort of buildups of cholesterol or whatever in the arteries, are not the problem. They are the paramedic at the car crash. They're not the cause of the crash. That is the body trying to patch up the damage within the artery to, help you to heal it. It's in a panic. The body can't work against you. If it's doing that, it needs to do it. But then they put you on a statin that brings down cholesterol, so it can't even go and fix it, and then you get Alzheimer's and whatever. I mean, statins are the biggest con since the recent nonsense that they've been putting into us over the past
And we
couple of
and we
years.
can have a competition on side effects of that all those statins too. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do all kinds of things. I mean, they just break up different pathways in the body. All these drugs do. All they ever do is get rid of symptoms. Some of the symptoms are not actually bad symptoms in the first place. And in getting rid of any symptoms, they're blocking a pathway in the body that is natural and needed. So the problem is that the body is rebelling against all the carbohydrates that it's told to eat, and so it creates this inflammation, and that then the body goes and patches it up. If you then go on to a keto or a carnivore diet, people are reducing these coronary artery calcium scans. They're going down to naught. Or some people don't even know what they had before, but nobody's piling on a load of calcium, a load of deposits in the arteries by going carnivore, even though they tell us that that's the thing that's going to cause it. So I think there's been some studies recently, and I can't remember, but if somebody looks on Sean Baker's channel or Ken Berry's channel or whatever, they'll find them talking about this recent study that really just blows up all of this bullshit. It was pseudoscience in the first place, just based on some very biased research by a guy called Ansel Keys, who was, I believe, paid $64,000 to say that animal fats or whatever, saturated fat, caused heart disease and not sugar. And he was paid off by the sugar industry. And so for those $64,000, this dude's probably killed more people than anyone in
Wow.
history.
His de facto 15 pieces of silver, if you were right.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, yeah.
at the time he got paid, just to draw a picture for everybody, $64,000. It was in fact a lot of money.
Yeah,
Right? I
yeah.
mean, come on,
Still not enough for me to murder half of the world.
no. Well, that's blood money or cashier's check, right? For this guy, he can care less, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's weird because money will do that, right? Like I had an argument with my significant other about um a drug that she has that's not, I mean, the insurance is being funny and now she has to pay like a lot of money for it. And she's upset at the insurance company, but I'm like, what about the pharmaceuticals? Who know this can help people, but they're just trying to maximize as much as they can, right? I'm like, these people don't have, they don't have your best interest in mind. Money for their investors is their priority, right? So it's one of those things where she said, well, every company is like that. Every company makes money for their investors, and I just kind of got upset. I didn't mean to get upset at her, but I got upset like you're trying to tell me that you're going to compare pharmaceuticals to other companies that are whose priority is to make money. I mean, to what end, right? Because what you just said this guy that took money, all right, to say something's healthy is something that big pharma is doing all the time. I'll give you an example. I can't remember the drug, but if they push through a drug that if a pharmaceutical company, hypothetically, because I ain't trying to get in trouble here, if a pharmaceutical company pushes a drug through that they know can hurt people, but and they ask their risk management person, how much would we lose in a class action suit? He'll say like 155 million. Let's just say that. But they ask how much are the profits the first 2 years, and it's 21 billion. It's, to them, it's money well spent.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that all big pharma doesn't care about people. I mean, I can make that leap. We do have enough historical evidence for us to be comfortable saying that, right? Do you agree? But
Absolutely.
all I'm trying to say is that they don't all. You got to do some research. In my day, we're the same age. Doing your own research was called reading. Okay, and that's not. I know that's not a very popular thing to do right now. Question about the coronary artery count thing. Is that done through blood work, or is that determined through just because I don't I just learned a
No,
lot about this.
it's an actual scan as far as I know. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I've never had one, but I do see a lot of people talking about it, and
Mhm.
they go for these scans because they get frightened, oh, I'm on a carnivore diet, maybe I'm going to get heart disease, or they just do it just to have another person say, hey, look, mine's zero,
Yeah.
you know?
Now, for you, because of your line of work, we know business is booming because people want to get better, and you have a pattern of making them get better. So what I'd like to do is take the time and call this young lady. Her name is Melissa Lim, and you're going to be able to hear her, and I will headset so she can hear you.
So hi, Phil. So I learned about you when I watched Jason's podcast about 2 years ago, and I was never someone to, go on diets or anything. I didn't even know who you were when I watched it because I thought this was a volleyball-related podcast. That's who he was talking to. But I listened to the podcast. I got really interested in it. I circled back and watched Jason's podcast with Bart Kay also. So after watching those two podcasts, I, got interested in carnivore. Again, I'm not someone who looks to diet at all. I mean, I didn't think I needed it. I don't consider myself overweight. But, as you get older, you obviously can't eat everything that you think you can. And so I tried it out I said I would try it for a month, and I did notice a difference. Like, mental clarity was there. I had a lot more focus. I probably lost about 10 pounds. Right now I'm about 120,
Yeah, she's tiny, so that's
125
like
pounds.
10% of her weight, dude.
I'm, I'm not, I'm not obese, but with not even just the weight and the feeling that I have more confidence. It just kind of clicked. But also, like, for example, like, I think my acne cleared up. I had some dermatologic, conditions like eczema that, I never had to treat again. Those things were manageable by, medication, steroids and stuff. But, those are the things that I noticed that made a big difference and got me into believing that there is something here, even though it sounded kind of way off base. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to eat meat only and not eat carbs, not eat vegetables, no sugar. In hindsight, I don't think I was well. Obviously I didn't have a crippling, debilitating chronic condition like how Phil had.
Yeah.
But I just feel that I want to make people more aware of that. You don't need to be entirely sick to realize that, you could be better. You can improve your life. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, what my experience was with that.
Cool. Phil?
That's lovely to hear, Melissa. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're on.
cool. Yeah, that's lovely to hear. I'm really honored. It's so lovely when you hear back from people that you haven't even met, that you've helped them out. It's lovely. So rewarding, so rewarding. And yeah, we all thought it was insane at one time. I mean, I used to write books on plant-based eating, and
Right.
we all thought it was nuts at one time and come to it out of kind of desperation when you're that ill. But now, people who are a little bit brighter than me, like you, and come to it without being so crippled is great. But yeah, it's obvious what's going on there. Things come out through the skin because the liver gets overburdened by too many plant foods, carbohydrates, whatever. And then the skin is one of the other major organs of detox. So stuff will come out through the skin. You'll get acne, and then the eczema is more of a leaky gut sort of autoimmune thing. But this fixes either one. And yeah, it is amazing. I mean, people go, well, what would you do for this disease? What would you do for that one? Is carnivore okay for this thing or that thing? And I loved Ken Berry put out like a little meme a while ago, and it was take away carnivore diet and just put proper human diet, proper ancestral human diet. So, is the proper ancestral human diet good for thyroid condition or whatever? That sounds a bit silly then, doesn't it? Because of course it is. We've just been brainwashed and forgotten what it is that we're supposed to eat. So it's lovely to be a little part of bringing people back to realizing that. And I'm delighted to hear your story, and well done.
Yeah, thank you. And then, just to give a little bit of background of information about me, so I'm a pharmacist by practice. So, I see a lot of drug
Sorry,
use.
that wasn't funny. Sorry.
What? No, but I mean, so I do have some base knowledge, but obviously, like in school, they never really taught us about nutrition either, and I think it's just, guidelines, you hear like, oh, low fat, eat more vegetables. Like that's what everyone's so ingrained in right now. It's like,
And grains and whole
it's,
grains.
yeah, yeah. Like, that's what I thought would help, for example, my husband had a high LDL maybe 3 years ago. And what did I say? I said, oh, maybe you should low fat, eat a low fat diet, right? I mean, that just seems like that's what everyone says. But, if you peel away the layers and do a little more research, watch more podcasts like, Phil's about where nutrition guidelines came from and the origin of that, then you realize like everyone's just taught wrong.
Yeah. And high LDL is great. There is no such thing as bad cholesterol. It's in the body to help us. It gets out of balance, as the doctors think, because we're eating the wrong diet, but it's still trying to help us. And then as long as if anyone's out there going, oh, this is blasphemy, LDL is the bad cholesterol. No, it's not. If you get a cholesterol test and your triglycerides are lower or even with your HDL, then it doesn't matter where the LDL is. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff, and it's all transporting nutrients around the body. And it's funny, how we get taught this. It's just as the practice nurse at my local GP's surgery actually said when she saw my LDL was up and I said I was on carnivore, she said, "Oh, that's fine. As long as you're on a high fat diet, the LDL can be as high." She said all these levels are just a con to sell statins. And I thought, whoa, you've woken up. And this was from the nurse at the practitioner at the local GP. And she went, oh, yeah, a load of us are realizing that now. And I think that's great.
I think I'd like to have an emphasis on what Melissa was talking about. Like we don't know any better, right? Like as
Yeah.
when you're growing up as a kid, right? At some point they're telling you too much sugar is bad, right? So I'm like, fine, I'll eat bread then, right? So because when you're growing up, right, you think sugar is something that's sweet to your tongue, and not realizing that like certain carbs, as far as where things show up on the glycemic index and blood sugar and all that stuff, is ridiculously high, right? Who knew that pancakes were lower? One of the lower things as far as carbs are concerned, right? Who knew that bananas and dates and pineapples were the highest, as far
Yeah.
as fruits go and stuff like that? So that was something that Melissa touched on a little bit that I wanted to joke around and have fun with. Melissa?
Well,
Yeah,
there is no
I can tell
required
you
carbohydrate for the
this,
human
I
body.
have
And
a
also
sugar
the other
addiction.
thing to get into,
Sorry, hold on.
which a lot of
Probably
people don't
from a young
realize is
age,
Hold
how
on, hold
toxic
on one
all,
sec, Melissa. Go ahead again. Go ahead again, Phil. Sorry, then I'll get you,
yeah,
Melissa.
Okay.
just that there is no, there's no required carbohydrate for the human body. We don't need any, none at all. And the when you get into the area of plant toxins, and then you realize just how toxic some of these vegetables are that we're told are superfoods. I've fallen foul of that and had kidney stones from juicing spinach. And they're very, very toxic. And like my friend Anthony Chaffee says, if anybody's watching this, just put in Anthony Chaffee in a video called Plants Are Trying to Kill You. And he goes right into plant toxins. I mean, 136 known carcinogens in an organic Brussels sprout, and
Oh
60 in
man,
the least,
I'm in trouble, boy.
60 in the least
Ooh,
toxic veg. You
nice.
just don't really need any of those things. You don't want them in your diet.
Melissa, go ahead.
Okay. I was just getting at, sugar is highly addictive. I mean, I can speak for myself that I, grew up with a sugar addiction. I can still struggle with it now because, say for example, like I'm not as strict of a carnivore as, I could be. It's just really hard if you're going to go eat out or, what have you. But, if I say, oh, I just want to eat like one small piece of chocolate, like I'm getting a craving, you eat one, you'll end up eating 10 of those. So, the sugar addiction is real. And just the fact that, the way food is processed, it's either got hidden sugars or else like, there's a nice bakery, down the street where, you know, which is just carbs and sugar. I mean, obviously, it's not good for you, but it tastes so good. That's one of the struggles that I, feel sometimes. So, just speaking of someone who's been, trying to be carnivore for 2 years, but can, is willing to break it. I know you don't want to hear that, but, I'm just a layperson trying to, be the best and healthiest that I can be.
We are we're all sugar addicts. We're all carb addicts. Honestly, it's nothing to worry about. We run the Big Fat Challenge, and we get people, going through from all starting points, and everybody's got a sugar addiction to some extent. And the most addictive things are the mixture of sugars and fats, which never occur in nature, except in breast milk and maybe in nuts a bit, around the autumn to put a bit of fat on for the winter. But these things are so addictive. If you think of any food that's addictive, chips or as you call them, fries, don't you? Crisps that we have here, which you call chips, pizza, ice cream, chocolate, any of this stuff is a mixture of carbs and fats. Never happens in nature. And not only that, but the corporations don't just give you something like berries and cream, which would be addictive enough, which is a mixture of carbs and fats, but they'll give you grains and seed oils, which is just the worst thing. I mean, there is nothing worse on the planet as an example of a toxic substance to eat than a donut. I mean, it's grains fried in seed oils and then covered in sugar. And you're like, it doesn't get worse than that. It's just pure toxin. And they get us addicted. And that is the most addictive thing, that mixture of carbs and fats.
Yeah, I got a cosign on that, and I did a little historical research on seed oil, and it was created in 1768 or something like that. And I found it really, really weird. If like if you look at there was a correlation of average lifespan from 1768 all the way up to 1861 because a lot of my favorite composers I was studying. I'm like, why is this guy like 27 years old and he looked like George Washington, right? He got white hair, and I wonder, I'd like to look deeper into it. Anyone listen to the podcast, if there's a correlation from when seed oil was invented and if there was an altering in average lifespan for the 100 years of 1768 to 1868, shoot me a message, let me know. I know correlation is not causation, but correlation definitely gives you a curious ear.
They didn't really eat them back then. They were invented quite a while ago as a machine lubricant. But I mean, it all started with Crisco, and I think that was like 1910, wasn't it? Something
Yeah,
like that.
for like Ford
And then,
engines or something.
Yeah. Well, Crisco was the first sort of time when they brought it in as something that people were actually supposed to eat,
Right.
because they brought in the kind of petrol sort of lubricants, oil based, fossil fuels as we call it, but we won't go down the rabbit hole whether they are fossil fuels or not.
Okay,
There's
right.
another rabbit hole.
Melissa
But
saved this podcast, basically. She doesn't know it yet. She doesn't know what we were talking about before she got on.
Yeah, whatever they were, but that came in, and so those seed oils that they were
Right.
making, so vegetable oils, then they had to find out something to do with them, so they decided they decided to feed them to humans, and that's when the heart disease epidemic really escalated.
Right. Melissa, what were you saying before?
Oh, I was just saying that, yeah, I mean, as a child, I think, my parents only cooked with vegetable oil, like corn oil, not a lot of, animal fats like butter or ghee. And I think that also contributed to a lot of my skin issues. So, I mean, it's not just, that you're eating meat, but you're also eliminating, the highly processed food, foods that contain a lot of sugar. I mean, it's that combination also, right? You're eliminating, those bad vegetable oils that, they say are like healthy for you, or, that almost every restaurant cooks with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I gotta agree with that. Go ahead.
I always say that meat doesn't heal anything. That's just our food. It's taking away the other stuff.
Right.
Like Anthony Chaffee says, it is quite amazing that 95% of the benefits come when you drop the last 5% of the plants.
Right.
It is amazing when you get rid of those last little bits of veg, for the serious conditions. That's when they usually reverse.
Dude, Brussels sprouts is always going to be my challenge, man. Dude, when you said Brussels sprouts, I'm like, what did I have last night? I'm like a dork. So
they're horrible, man. The only use for Brussels sprouts is to wrap them up in candy wrappers and give them to kids at trick or treating, just to wind them up.
Yeah.
They're just disgusting things. And they make you fart. Your body tells you it doesn't want them.
If there's anything I love 9 o'clock at night, it's Cabbage Patch abortions. Okay, I got it. All right. So, Melissa, we're gonna get out of here off the phone, but I wanted to let you know that you basically dictated what's gonna come first on this podcast. Everything we talked about before, we're gonna put at the end. So we can fly under the YouTube radar. Basically, we were talking about some of the health issues that happened during the pandemic and some of the approaches and why we agreed and disagreed with the way it was handled and this and that. And there's no real, if you listen to me or him enough, there are not a whole lot of spoiler alerts in regards to that. Okay, Melissa, we're out of here, young lady. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you really quick. Did you tell Phil how I met you? That story. I know you.
Yeah, I might have said that before the podcast, but yeah, she came up to me in Huntington Beach and she said she follows my podcast. So I'm like, all right, she looks like she's in shape, right? She obviously plays. She's Asian, so I assume she has a really good skill set and she's got serve, receive, and defense. But then she starts talking about Phil Escott, and I'm like, wait. That was my guy. That was the guy that came on after Bart Kay that everybody liked, right? Like Bart Kay was informative, but and you both were, but you were more beloved because I think you talk here on this level where sometimes Bart Kay for his character, right? For the character has to be up here. It's a character and it's unapologetic and I listened to him. I listened to him 2 days ago. Tear up. In fact, I posted it, right? You remember? Was it Dr. Rogers? Just tore up vegan. Yeah. We ain't gonna get into a vegan versus carnivore thing unless you want. But man, he tore him a new one on that one.
Oh, he's had a go at me as well because I left some comments and he's now called me the Hulk Hogan of carnivore trolls on his channel.
That's awesome. He does know that's a compliment, right?
Absolutely, I love it. Yeah,
Hulk Hogan.
I was happy with that one.
Hell yeah!
No, I love.
He's
Bart.
too stupid to know it's not an insult.
Yeah. No, Bart is a good friend of mine, and I love him, and that really was a beautiful takedown of veganism.
But listen, Melissa's face is clean. There's no acne. Her face is clean. She looks terrific. I think we hung out the whole weekend. You came all 3 days, Melissa?
Yeah, I think you left. I don't think you were there on Sunday, but we definitely
Yeah.
hung out for a couple days.
Yeah, my team lost.
And like, I just found that, it was important for me to talk to you, Jason, or like, I wanted to do that in person, right? I didn't want to send you, some random like text or whatever through a social media thanking you for introducing me, to
Yeah.
this lifestyle.
As good looking as she was, that could have
I
went
found
another
that
way,
super
but go ahead.
important just to say like, hey, Jason, and I knew you would be in California, right?
Yeah.
At an AVP event. So, it took about a little over a year to do that, but, it meant a lot to me. And, I'm sure you told me you were touched about that.
I'm a
And,
freaking cry. That's what's up.
And if someone told me I would be speaking to Phil Escott, as a result of that, I mean, I wouldn't have expected that at all. So,
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to talk to Phil because of the way you made me feel when you said that to me. This is Huntington Beach for my volleyball pupils. I was there because Jeff Samuels and Rafi Paulus made the main draw. I'm Jeff Samuels' coach. So I didn't even think he's going to qualify. So this is a teaser for everyone else to laugh at. So I had practice and I'm like, Jeff, do you want to sing karaoke tomorrow? And he's like, no, I'm playing. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I made it in the draw. I'm like, yeah? He's like, you're coaching, right? I'm like, yeah. So that's what I was doing there, Melissa. I was on center court. We had to play Triborn and came Chalk first. But the reason why I put Phil on the line with you is because the way you made me feel, and the work I'm trying, that the podcast is more than just volleyball, as you know, and then the work I'm trying to do, and all the obstacles you weave across, just to hear someone say, hey, you changed a lot of things. You inspired me. Keep up the good work. And I thought if I felt that way, I'm like, how would Phil feel? How would Phil feel if you told that to Phil yourself? And that's why I arranged the meeting of the minds.
yeah, and that's great.
Yeah.
Well, it's
right.
just lovely.
All right.
Thanks so much for telling your story there.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And you rescued us from we were in rabbit hole hell, just telling all kinds of truth before you got on. So we're secretly thanking you. So listen, thank you so much for calling. And we're actually gonna finish up because I have 2 more questions for this guy. But Melissa, say bye to Phil.
Bye, Phil. Yeah, it was great to talk.
Nice,
Oh,
Phil.
Melissa,
Can't wait
you
to hear
too.
or see the full podcast.
Yep, go ahead, Phil.
Bye, Melissa.
All right, cool. Nice. So this is a testament to how good I am teching my show. Normally when you plug the phone in, Phil, right, the sound automatically goes to the video switcher, right? So she can hear you and you can hear her, and there was no sound. So I'm like, all right, let me grab a mic, and then there's an extra headset so she can hear you. And that's what I did for thank you for being patient. But that was speaking only for myself. That was important for me. And the podcast, for us to hear that. This is what the podcast is about. I'm all over the place, right? I'm all over the place. Yeah.
Lovely to hear.
So let's talk about business. Business is booming, right?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, we're doing a lot and we're getting by, but it's the rheumatologists that poison people and don't cure arthritis that get the proper money so far.
Yeah.
And then we pick up the sort of scrag ends of the people who've woken up once they've destroyed them too much. But we're doing lots of stuff. I mean, the book's out now, and that's just out in the last couple of days. And we're doing all these events, and it's wonderful to be doing those and having all these great speakers along, and getting people actually live. After all these stupid times that we've been separated from each other and all.
Amen.
And that's lovely to do. And so we got one in the UK here in the Peak District this Easter, over the Easter weekend, with some wonderful speakers. There's me and Ben are speaking. We've got Sophia Clements from Paleo Medicina. We got Stephen Thomas is speaking. We got Richard Griffiths as well, who was the episode before on my podcast.
Okay.
But if you go to the Big Fat Challenge and click on events, I'll send you something, to put underneath, and you can go to my link tree, find all of these things. But the event. We got a wonderful one in Spain with Anthony Chaffee and Natasha Campbell McBride, who wrote all the gut and psychology syndrome books. Absolute genius. She's wonderful. And Sophia Clements will be at that one as well. And that's like a whole week at a beautiful resort in Spain. You know, just hang out and have a load of carnivore food, swim in the pool, whatever. I mean, Anthony Chaffee looks so amazing. I think probably we'll sell that one out with all the women wanting to come along and watch Anthony and his budgie smugglers around the pool, right?
Yeah.
Because Anthony's cool.
Yep.
He's a lovely guy. And yeah, we've got our Big Fat Challenge as well that we run, you know, which is just so many resources. You can get the Red Pill Revolution book and the Red Pill book and audio book and everything in there. There's loads of questions and answers section. Everything in there that you need to change that lifestyle and understand why, even down to the sort of emotional stuff like the EFT for getting rid of addictions and that kind of thing. It's all inside there. Lots of courses and all kinds of things, and then free support on Zoom, you know, where we do the calls. And you can talk about diet, lifestyle. You can talk about all the tinfoil hattery and rabbit hole stuff too. You know, you get a lot of people who have been feeling very isolated during these last few years. You know, they're people, it's split families up, marriages, it's split friends up, it's done everything, you know. Some people are feeling very isolated, so it's nice to have that support. And that's the kind of thing that we're doing at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I'm just excited about this. Go check this out.
Yeah, show it again.
Revolution, you know.
Let me do that again. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, Red Pill Food Revolution, available Amazon, all over the place, whatever. But yeah, wonderful book. And it is, as it says in the end on the back, the book's also a story of hope, showing how through rediscovering our proper relationship with food, it's even possible for us to restore our health, our society, and even our place in the universe. Goes very deep. It's beautiful, beautiful book. Well done, Ben Hunt, my friend.
Absolutely.
Best writer I've ever met. He's fantastic. Beautiful wordsmith. So that's what we're up to anyway.
Nice. Yeah. How many times a day? Like if someone's on a carnivore diet, like this athlete thing, we had this thing where you eat 5 times a day, right? Smaller portions, and they say it speeds up your metabolism. And I don't know if I was a placebo effect recipient of that, but I ended up losing 65 pounds doing that. It took a year, but there were other lurking variables that came into play: the exercise, the constant activity, making sure I had some kind of meat every night. I had veal, you know, I had lamb, or I had red meat or whatever, or occasionally the one with feathers and 2 wings. Salmon, you know, I understand salmon had a heightened level of omega-3. I don't know why that's good for you, but my doctor told me it was. But my question to you is, if someone's going on a carnivore diet, how many times a day do they eat? I understand it's species of appropriate, but what's quantitatively appropriate?
You eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full. It's that simple. But that really does change when you're running on fats. It's a whole different metabolism. So when you're running on ketones and you have that, I always like to liken it to a fire, and you put a log on and it burns really steadily. Mm-hmm. That's like fat metabolism. But carbs, you throw a bit of newspaper on and it burns. Throw another one on, it burns, and it's gone. And that's like the carb refeeding. You have to eat so many times a day. I think as a carnivore,
and it's replaced by the next meal, right? Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. But you have so much stable energy, and it's so nutritious without any of the anti-nutrients and plant toxins blocking the uptake. For example, you'd get more nutrition from a steak on its own than you would from the exact same steak with a salad, because the salad has so many toxins and anti-nutrients, the body isn't taking up the nutrients from the steak properly. And a lot of people don't realize that. Oh, I need my green veg on the side. No, just take it away, throw it away. If you don't like it, it's crap. You never needed to eat it in the first place. Kids don't like it. They have good intuition. They're crap. My youngest son, he's 8. He's never eaten a vegetable. Mm-hmm. It's the healthiest kid I've ever seen. Right. Now, if you just, a lot of people will eat maybe once or twice a day. I eat once or twice a day. I've eaten once today, but I wasn't hungry in the morning, and I didn't eat till about 2 o'clock, so I won't eat again. I could eat now, but it's a bit late for me. I don't like to eat late at night, so I don't need to. I'll eat in the morning maybe, and then tomorrow I'll probably eat twice. And then you never know, the next day I might eat once or twice. But for me, it's once or twice. But a lot of people seem to get to that pattern of once or twice. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But if you want to eat more, eat more. It's just eat according to hunger, but you won't get so hungry so often as you do when you're on a carb-based diet.
There's also less neurological addiction to wanting more meat, where we can't say the same thing about carbohydrates and this and that. I'm from New York. I grew up a pizza head, right? I want a slice. You can't just have just one slice. Get out of here, right? The Doritos commercial. You can't just have one chip. Yeah, was that them? Was that them telling us that we told you
I know.
so? Was that like a warning?
Yeah, it's the same as the Pringles ad, isn't it? Once you pop, you can't stop. And you eat these horrible things. I mean, you tried setting fire to one of those things, they burst into flames. It's full of seed oils, toxic, horrendous things.
Set your Pringles on fire.
You shouldn't be able to set fire to your food. It shouldn't happen.
Now, something else I'd like to talk to you about, and we've been on for a long time, and I don't know if you have a hard stop, but I'm really just having fun. I wanted to talk about two things that people who are not carnivores have been making an argument about. Three things. Two of them were already covered on Bart Kay's debate with Rogers, so I figured we can use that as a launching point. So one of them was teeth. When Rogers showed him like his teeth, and Bart didn't catch on right away, and then he says, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute. Are you trying to say that our teeth are not that meat is not species appropriate because of our teeth?" Can we talk a little bit about that, about dismissing some of the bro science behind that?
Yeah, well, if anybody wants to go real deep into that, if you look at my channel, Phil Escott channel, Ben and I have done a whole presentation going through this ridiculous meme that vegans always send you about teeth. And I think the video is called Comedy Science Appreciation Corner or something.
Right.
But we go through the whole business about human teeth and digestive system. They go, "Oh yeah, we don't have the teeth." We've had tools for millennia. We've had spears. You just look at a cave painting, you can see what we did. There's no broccoli in that. There's no quinoa. There's none of that. It was one guy, one spear, one mammoth, or a few guys. That's what we did. That's what we ate forever. And we are facultative carnivores. If you look at our digestive system, which is far more telling than our teeth, our digestive system is more like a hyena or something. It's more like a scavenger. For example, the pH, is even more acidic than an obligate carnivore like a lion. We're totally adapted to meat. I mean, I've eaten nothing but meat for 9 years. Now, if we weren't carnivores, I'd be dead. I'd at least have scurvy, because everybody says, "Oh, vitamin C or whatever." There's easily enough vitamin C in meat. It's the vitamin C competes with carbohydrates for the same pathway. So that's why nature puts more vitamin C in a berry, because you need it when you're eating a sugar. Right? But nobody who goes fully carnivore and eats good meat ever gets scurvy. There's easily enough vitamin C in meat when you're not eating carbs. And so, we are adapted to eating nothing but meat. And how sick I was when I went into carnivore, it would have killed me pretty quickly if we weren't carnivores, right? And people go, "Oh, it's just an anecdote." Well, it's not an anecdote.
Yeah, you wouldn't have lived in a year. You would have been dead in a year.
Yeah. I mean, if you give a gorilla just steak, for a start, it might not eat it. But if you did nothing but steak, it would be dead pretty quickly, because it is a true herbivore. It's a hindgut fermenter. It has a completely different digestive system to us. And, it's a lot to go into about that. But I mean, check out that video on my channel, Comedy Science Appreciation Corner. And we go through the whole thing, Ben and I. It's just absolute nonsense.
Bart also pointed out that there was a type of fish that feeds on whales, dead whales,
that
actually has,
it's a hagfish,
and it has no teeth.
No teeth, yeah, and it's carnivore. Yeah. I mean, there's loads of examples out there that just show that this is.
But when he showed his teeth, I was amazed. Like, Bart looked like he was ready for everything, and then like 5 seconds later, he says, "Wait a minute, you just showed me your teeth." Yeah.
Well, I mean, all these vegans, they think that they've got this tremendous science and all this tremendous knowledge, but it really is very basic. You come off a standard diet. Most people who are vegan, it's their first experiment, and bless them, they've got a really good heart and they think that they're saving animals when they're not, you know, because a vegan diet kills billions of animals, same as anybody who eats crops. And we know exactly how every argument's going to go. If I say that to a vegan, they go, oh, well, most of the crops are fed to animals. No, they're not. That nobody would eat crops. No animals would be even in CAFOs, in factory farms, if it wasn't for people who eat crops. Because the crops, when they're harvested, they take out the fuel oils, they take out the bits that are supposedly edible to humans, and then they give the rest to the animals. So I would say that vegans are actually themselves responsible for factory farming, not me. I eat grass-fed lambs and lamb and beef.
I'm looking at 6 different sites that say
Yeah,
that's
I'm more
right now
I am
that's
more,
supporting what you're saying. Mhm.
I'm more vegan now than I've ever been. The most vegan thing on the menu is grass-fed beef and lamb.
There it
It
is.
doesn't do anything to the environment. It doesn't do anything. But anyway, that's an aside. But it's just that we know every single move. I mean, I could see Bart in that interview
Mhm.
as this guy was bringing up all this stuff. For a start, he was bringing up these ridiculous epidemiological studies that Bart knew better than he did.
He
You
didn't
know,
see
he
it
knew them
coming.
inside out.
He didn't see it
We've
coming. And when
seen,
Bart called him out, and then he's like, Bart said, look, you want to have a real conversation or you want to pretend I'm stupid here? Right? You want to
yeah,
pretend
yeah,
like you didn't
yeah.
think I would know that? You know, it was very, very impressive.
No,
Yeah.
they think that they have this science,
Hmm.
and they don't. What they don't realize is that most carnivores, because we're so brainwashed,
Hmm.
we come to it as a last resort. We've tried every other diet.
Hmm.
We're not somebody who's just decided, oh, look, I've seen a vegan propaganda film, and so I'm going to go vegan for the animals and all of that. And then they think that they know everything when these
No.
films are just propaganda.
Yeah. Abe Lincoln put it on his
But
Instagram account, right? Yeah. Go ahead. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
so they, you know, they think that they've got this science, and whether he's a doctor or not, Rogers, you know, and he'll come out with this stuff, and I could practically predict everything that he was going to say because
And predict the response.
oh yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
predict
yeah, yeah.
the response from a competent individual who was there to refute it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bart is much better on the biophysics of everything
Hmm.
than I am. He can go even deeper into it and really blow these guys up, but they don't know it. They don't realize it.
Yeah.
But if I have an argument with a vegan, which I'll sometimes do if I can be bothered, if I'm not busy that day and they come up and start attacking me, I could write their side of the conversation as well. I
Right.
know exactly where it's going to go. They've got a very limited viewpoint on these things, and they always have the same set of things, and then they run out of things to say, and then they get abusive every single time. They'll end
Well,
up in
you
caps lock,
which
screaming
is
at you.
well, yeah, which is why when you said before, like the whole animals dying thing and the factory farming thing is not connected, it really is because in an argument, sometimes less competent debaters. I'm actually I'm an exceptional debater, but I'm from Brooklyn. We had to. Okay, these guys are amateurs. Um, when someone's losing on the merits of the argument and they don't have a leg to stand on, you have to know that emotion and feelings come into play. The same person that comes into an argument saying facts don't care about your feelings, that same person at the end of the argument is going to be like, well, there's a moral thing. All those animals are dying and this and that, all right? So, and that is an argument that someone like you has to be ready for too. And you already mentioned it because it was one of the questions that you already knocked out. There is more evidence to support, and I'm just looking on Google, right? Who's on the side of the vegan? Who's not going to favor the carnivore? Just looking at 6 different sites that say more animals die for vegans than they do for people who eat meat. So it's up to them to decide what kind of animal. Oh, that's just a squirrel. It's not as big as a cow. That doesn't count, right? So there's always this moral thing. Oh, it's a living thing. A plant's a living thing. Oh, but it's less of a living thing. So there's always this feelings thing that allows them to shift the goalpost where you're missing the goal, right? And
It's
that,
a religion. It's a religion. It's an evil religion. I mean, if people think that it's only small animals, yeah, you got to murder all those. Well,
right.
that's what the vegans say, murder. You know, it's murder is people, right? It's
Yeah.
not animals.
So
But
what? I'm supposed to raise my
Google,
IQ by eating gifted children because they're small? they
yeah,
don't count.
exactly. No, but it isn't. It isn't. If you have a look and see how many deer and foxes and whatever are all ripped to bits, just Google deer caught in combine header. There's some horrific things of them being sort of sucked ass first
Mhm.
into these things. A far worse death than you'd ever have from a bolt gun, you know, when
Yeah.
you're a cow and you're going to be made into steak.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing is completely upside. But this might, if there's some vegan listening to this, and it might say, well, anybody might be thinking, oh, they're vegan bashing. No, we're not. I've been vegan. I have tremendous respect for how they have great hearts and whatever. But they've been caught up. What I bash is veganism, not vegans, because I believe it's a very seriously evil method of control. And we go through that in the Red Pill Food Revolution book,
Good.
how the elites have controlled us with plant-based diets for a long, long time. It's not a new thing.
While they're eating filet mignon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm part of a news corporation called Be Better Media, and there's a 3-person team, but during the holidays, they left me by myself. I don't know if I'm invited back, but I had a 7-minute monologue called "Not for Me, but for Thee," which I will send you later. And it was about these people that are saying you should use your gas stove, and then save electricity and worry about the climate, right? And where are they saying this? They're saying it at the World Economic Forum, where they flew in a private jet. Like, that one ride on the private jet is like 30 cars. Okay, you got. Right? You got someone saying that you should wear a mask everywhere you go, but when she goes on vacation, she goes to Florida where there's no mask mandate, right? So it's like, right? They want you to eat bugs, right? But they eat freaking salmon and filet mignon, right? So they don't want to give you welfare. Oh, you're entitled, right? But if the money that they bet on while Wall Street crashes, these people, you know what I'm saying? The government bails them out and they pay the loan back, but the taxpayers who paid into that loan, they don't get paid back. So it's this 8-minute monologue. It started with volleyball. You'll love it. It's only 8 minutes and it's worth, I promise, you're a busy man, it's worth your time. I'm in a suit.
I'd love to.
I'm wearing Oxford clothes for this one. I'm all suited up and I have my little thing like, what do we do? Not from, the little topic section. So the third part of that argument, and before I get too old to even remember, was he was talking about there was teeth, right? There was factory farming. What else was there? Oh, this is the most important thing before we go. I need you to educate on our audience. When people use the word studies show, I want you to give me 2 or 3 things that when someone's like, because when someone says studies show, they're just like, all right, boom. They're not gonna say it. You know what I'm saying? We even have coaches, volleyball coaches. Studies show. Oh, Alexis, physiology shows this. But when I started looking at the studies, I'm like, you're full of it, dude. So I want you to give my audience 2 or 3 things when someone says studies show, and they give you the study because they know, because they don't understand it, you won't, and you just have to. And because you don't understand it, you have to take their word for it, right? Which was not bad back in the old days, right? Which you didn't know. Or too lazy to know, or just competently could not know. You have to put trust in the people that do. So let's start with a general, not mistrust, but I want to know more and educate myself. What are 2 or 3 things people look at when studies show?
Well, it's become a bit of a religion, hasn't it? I mean, people can't wipe their ass without a study these days of how to do it. It's ridiculous. It's taking away our intuition, our common sense. I'll use the diet studies really as an example, because if you get these studies that show, for example, red meat causes cancer or heart disease or whatever. If you actually look at the study, people have been educated that red meat is bad. So people who eat more red meat are also likely to have loads of other bad habits.
That's right.
Proper bad habits.
Uh-huh.
So they will be eating all the pizza. They'll be eating cereal for breakfast. They'll be eating loads of chocolate, all chips. They'll be smoking. They'll be drinking sodas. They'll be, all of this kind of thing will be going on. And so then they cut the meat out and they do a load of other things. They'll give up drinking. They'll give up smoking. They'll give up whatever. And it shows that they have an improvement in health, which they will do. This is called healthy user bias. Also, when they do these studies on meat causing all these awful complaints, they actually, do you know they count a pepperoni pizza as meat? Right. So I mean, what is exactly going to be causing the problem there?
Please pick a category, right? No, but they're like, please pick a category, and there's no other category that's just red meat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I always say, don't blame the burger for the sins of the bun. because you go into McDonald's or something and people eat McDonald's. I don't recommend McDonald's at all. You know, I mean, you've got the seed oils that they cook the chips in, the fries rather. They've got the diet, the huge Coca-Cola. They've got the bun. They've got all of this crap and all the sauces with chemicals in, and they're blaming the one little thing in there that is okay, which is the burger patty, right? Which is beef.
Huh.
And that's the one thing that they're blaming for all these horrible health issues. Plus, it's epidemiology, because people say, oh, it's just anecdotes. Oh, you've got better, 9 years carnivore, and all these other hundreds of thousands of people who are reporting these amazing reversals of disease when they eat nothing but meat. Oh, it's just useless anecdotes. Well, epidemiology is just a collection of anecdotes, because you get people, as you say, trying to say it on a form like, what have they eaten? How do they know how much broccoli they ate last year? And they probably lie anyway, because they think broccoli's healthy and I'll put a bit more in than I actually did eat, when really I ate a load of pizza.
Yeah, right.
You know, and all of that. So it's not reliable information. And then they massage the data. Even then, it was absolutely marginal. Like they had some study on bowel cancer or something from red meat. Oh yeah, red meat causes bowel cancer. I've seen bowel cancer reverse when you eat nothing but meat. That's not what screws up your bowel. It's all the carbohydrates ripping it to bits like a Brillo pad going through there, you know?
Wow.
And so all of this stuff that comes out in studies, it's absolute nonsense, because it is a collection of anecdotes, and it's a collection of anecdotes of people who are probably lying and then put together by people who are employed to make it look like a certain thing. Yeah, you can do anything with statistics. Now, when you have a carnivore study, you see what they need to do is to get a vegan diet and a regular American diet, and then a pure carnivore diet. And then they'll see some serious stuff. But there was a study that Harvard did recently, and it was a carnivore diet study. I've never seen a diet study show so many improvements to so many diseases. No confounders either. Not even a little bit of broccoli to blame all the good results on.
I very much like how you said, don't blame the burger for the sins of the bun. That is that's something I think I'm going to use again. I also think that Bart was very, very good, and have been very good with making people understand that correlation studies are interesting, and they do raise alarm bells to do more studying. Like, I'd like to know more, but people do have to know that correlation isn't causation, right? I mean, he made a really cute joke, and that was the joke I made about sunburn and what was it? Sunburn and what was it? Ice cream?
Sunburn and ice cream, yeah.
Yeah.
And also that one about the correlation between what's his name? The actor, and his films and people drowning in swimming pools or something.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah,
know,
I remember that one too. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage films.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, the joke for everyone listening is that if you're in Florida, right, and you're out in the sun and you get sunburned, but you have ice cream that night, right? And you get burned even more, you have ice cream the next night, right? There's no logical connection between eating ice cream and sunburn, right? And this is where you said, where the rubber meets the road, where you just use your common sense that a lot of people have accepted as givens, and a lot of things that we accept as givens that don't feel right. Maybe just educate yourself. And this is one of those things where I'm telling people, don't be afraid to read studies. They look terrifying. Right? They use a lot of medical terminology, and you're like, well, my doctor says this and this doctor says that. I'm just confused. I don't know what to do. The truth of the matter is, you do know what to do. You just got to read. You just got to read. You got to challenge yourself. I'm not saying be brilliant. I'm not saying be an expert at that field. I'm just saying know enough to function as a mammal. Because at the end of the day, if you don't want to educate yourself, you have to put your trust in people that are educated. And do you trust them?
Well, you've got to also realize who is educated, because, you know, you say, like, people say to me, you're not a doctor. Who the f do you think you are?
Right.
You know, it is a compliment, because doctors get probably, some of them, no education in diet, and some of them a couple of hours in the wrong diet, right. All this low fat stuff. So then they go, are you a doctor? How do you know what to eat? Well, I'm a human being, you know, who's been studying diet for 40 odd years and was wrong for 30. So how likely is it that a doctor is going to figure out what we're actually supposed to eat?
Right.
With
Yeah.
2 hours education in the wrong diet.
Mhm.
And then people go to them for dietary advice, and they just, you know, you'll get some overweight doctor telling you to eat low fat food. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So you
Yeah.
might as well go down to the laundrette or something to get dietary advice as go down to your doctor. You probably get a better one anyway. Yeah, it's not something that they're an expert in at all in their 7 years of learning to be a legalized drug dealer.
I agree. And I think if they put the same work in as a medical professional as the people who are inherently interested in their health, as if their life depends on it, right? Because it really does. I think we'd have a lot more better doctors there. Like, again, I worked for a doctor for 17 years. His name is Dr. Rosenfeld, and he wrote a book called Doctor, What Should I Eat? Now, this is 1995, and this is when people don't have where carnivorism, you didn't have leaders of the meat militia like Bart or guys like you know, who are turning people's life around. But I read this book and I took a year and I lost 65 pounds because of some things that were in it. And they're saying, this is good for me. I'm trying it. And I'm like, okay, this is working. I like this, you know, like salmon, like omega-3 or like fish oil or whatever. Not seed oil, but dark chocolate or is it an aphrodisiac? No, I tried it. You know, I mean, I use my body as an experiment because I spent my whole life ruining it. So I'm like, what the hell right now? Why not, right? You spend your whole life ruining your body. So you shouldn't expect results right away. But I think it was worth the read because what he said was what works and what doesn't, and what works for you and what doesn't. It was like the subtitle of Dr. What Should I Eat. And it was on a bestseller list, New York Times, and is what turned my life around. But now, for the people that want to continue to educate themselves, right? For the people that want to continue to know more, and for the people that know that you have this finite amount of time on this earth that can be a good time or can suck, right? Like I told you before in the last podcast, if it sucks, you have to fight like hell to change that, as if your life depends on it. And that's why I'm really, really enjoying having you on this podcast for that. Anything else you wanted to say about what to look for when someone says study show, like if people want to read the studies? Or did we cover it all? Did we exhaust it?
I think so. I think just realize that you got to look for who's really paid for the study and what they want the study to show.
Yes.
Because you know, who are they financed by? Who has financed this study? You'll find often that they've been financed by the food industry, or you know, somebody who wants to pretend that you know Doritos are healthy, or perhaps the Seventh-day Adventists. You know, if you look into the history of the Seventh-day Adventists,
Right.
which is a huge subject really to go into, but where it's come from, and they sit on all these sort of dietary councils and whatever, and they have a huge bias. And when you see where that comes from, which is just probably the faked visions of an 18-year-old religious nutter girl in the 18th century.
Right.
And this is where all the whole plant-based thing came from in the West.
Right.
You can always trace it back to some lunatic religious or spiritual cult.
Yeah, but do you see why I keep harping on this? Because I think the more you delve into it yourself, the more closer to the middle you come to informed consent, right?
Yeah.
Don't mean to bring back the vaccine or whatever, but in 2022, there was a new bivalent booster that it would have helped the public to know there was only tested on 8 mice, right?
Yes, yeah, that's
Now,
amazing, isn't it?
if it's only tested on 8 mice, and I don't know, maybe if you're clinically obese or whatever, and if you feel like you've had good luck with the other, and if you trust the medical, there's a level of trust in this and that, but you know it and you take it anyway, good, that's on you. But to say this is tested on 8 mice, but no university is going to accept your application, you can't attend school unless you have this booster, is unfair. And I think the reason why we're uncomfortable talking about this is because there's a power dynamic that doesn't like this conversation to take place, which, by the way, the end of this conversation I'm putting in the beginning. like like in the middle where we started with Melissa, I'm putting that in the beginning, and then everything else is going to be segue to this, because I think for rhythm purposes, I mean, you're the dancer here and you're the drummer, man. You got the beat, and you certainly march to the beat of your own drum, par for the course, inside joke, that I respect and appreciate, but I think that'll work for the podcast. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.